Frustration and unsatisfaction, confusion then understanding, hopelessness giving way to power. These are just some of the emotions you are going to feel if you decide to play through Amazing Cultivation Simulator. Amazing Cultivation Simulator, or ACS for short, was created by the Chinese developer CSQ Games. The game is a Xianxia game that takes place in a fictional setting based on ancient China where cultivation is possible. I think the genre it's based on, mixed with the extensive gameplay and systems, play off each other to enhance the experience. The main goal of the game is to cultivate immortals, and if you don't know what cultivation is, don't worry, I will be covering Xianxia and cultivation briefly in this video. There are many systems in ACS, and these can go quite deep. While these systems are far from intuitive, I would say it helps you feel the difficulty of cultivating as an immortal down to your core. I'm going to talk about some overarching aspects of the game and how they can go on to enhance the experience. And then I will go over the gameplay as a whole and talk about my experience from start to finish with ACS. I have played Amazing Cultivation Simulator for over 800 hours, and I've loved my time with it. And by the end of this video, I hope I can convince you it's worth some of your time too. I think the setting the game takes place in is one of the main things that shines through in this game. The genre is called Xianxia, and I can't talk about this game or what makes it great until I've talked a bit about Xianxia. Xianxia is a Chinese fantasy setting that inherits different parts from core concepts of Chinese culture, such as martial arts, Taoism, traditional Chinese medicine, and much, much more. I'm going to try and summarize the basic story structure of a Xianxia-based story. The main goal of life in Xianxia is to cultivate to become an immortal and ascend to heaven. Cultivating is what you call the work you do to reach the end goal of becoming an immortal and ascending to heaven. This usually means improving your body and mind, as well as gaining a greater compatibility with Qi. Qi is the essence of life. All things have it, and some things have a greater capacity for it than others. You can use it to affect the world around you as long as you have learned the proper techniques for doing so. You learn these techniques to further enhance your cultivation. You go through the cycle of getting stronger so you finally meet the requirements for ascending via the Creed of Heaven. What's required exactly to ascend to heaven can differ from one story to another, as well as the techniques you learn, but the process is usually pretty standard. If you're an expert in Xianxia, I'm sorry if my definitions are a bit off. I didn't mean for this to be a complete breakdown of the genre. I just need to make sure everyone is aware of the basic principles so I can talk about what makes the game so great. Feel free to leave a comment down below and dislike my video and let me know how badly I screwed up and messed up the pronunciations. While I think setting is key to making this an amazing game, I don't want to talk about how this makes ACS into a great game without acknowledging how weak the story is. The story starts in the first tutorial, where a mysterious group of rival cultivators attack your sect while the sect leader is working on a breakthrough for their cultivation. Sects in the game are like factions or guilds. The rival cultivators wipe the floor with you, and then the tutorial is over. After you're wiped out, a small group of mortals set out to try and rebuild the sect somewhere new from scratch, which is where the game begins. Mortals are basically menial labor in the game. They clean, cook, build, and do a lot of other basic tasks. So the story starts out with this weak premise that about 1 to 11 pointless mortals from a sect that just got wiped out are building up this sect from nothing, equipped only with whatever they carried away from the sect when it was destroyed, with little to no understanding of the cultivation world, as mortals aren't taught the secrets of cultivation until they start down the path to becoming an immortal. There's a storyline to follow where you find out who attacked you and why, but it's not easy, nor is it really fulfilling to me. I think the dialogue and revelations at the true end are actually quite interesting and cool, but it's really difficult to get that ending without a guide, and there's no real push to discover anything in the world revolving around the story. That's also not to say that games can't be fun without stories. I just played 450 hours of Kenshi, which has no main story to speak of, and I couldn't have loved it more. ACS having a story that it tries to present you, but ends up being so lackluster, really takes away from the experience for me. I don't really want to spoil anything since some people might want that extra world building, but the story isn't really what spoke to me. So let's get into what really spoke to me in the game. In the opening of this video, I mentioned 6 different emotions you'll feel while playing this game, and I believe these emotions, paired with the genre, really enhance the sensation of being an immortal in this world. I'll talk about the specifics of some of the systems later, but this game isn't easy. It's actually really confusing and unintuitive. I've heard it's a little easier if you're familiar with Xianxia, but even then I think most people will get lost playing this game more than a few times. I know that doesn't sound like a compliment, but consider this. Cultivation is supposed to be difficult. It is supposed to take hundreds, if not thousands of years to ascend. You are a group of immortals with no elders who know what they're doing, no one who can lead you through what you can do to reach ascension easier, so it's quite hard to get anywhere during your cultivation, or figure out what you should be doing at times. I think that aspect of how hard something to do is actually very difficult to pull off in any other forms of media besides video games. A movie, for example, lasts anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. Movie characters can have a difficult time doing something, but any difficult goal is usually achieved in 20 to 30 minutes of viewing time. How often as a child did you think something you saw in a movie wasn't actually hard to do? Just to find out later in life, it is actually quite difficult. These scenes can't really translate how painstaking a task can be. A book can do a better job at this by translating the issue into thorough descriptions that let our mind do a lot of the heavy lifting. They take the plights of the characters and present them to you in written format, allowing it to be more descriptive. Even when a book does this well, it just makes you understand, but it can rarely make you feel it. A video game can actually make you feel how difficult something is. Books and movies can make you feel happiness and sadness in great supply, but how insurmountable a job can be, almost never. The confusion and frustration you feel while playing a video game can be used as a device to further the experience of that video game. I want to be clear here, these aspects can be part of terrible games too. I'm not saying that a game that is frustrating or confusing is better than an inherently satisfying and easily grasped game. In fact, it's usually the opposite. A Tetris-based game that inverts the controls randomly without any warning, or changes a line block into a Z block right before I get a Tetris just to make me frustrated isn't deep or meaningful. It's just terrible, and frankly, it would be a bad take on Tetris. On the other hand, making ACS cultivation process long, difficult, and confusing helps put you into the place of an actual cultivator. It's not a game that shows you the convenient ledge on a linear path to the next story point. You have a real chance of dying in ACS, and getting attached to any one playthrough is a bad idea. It doesn't take much to make a save file unrecoverable, or to get your sect wiped out, forcing you to give up and start a new game. Some people will think I'm looking too much into the design and say ACS is just a confusing game, and that's a fair assessment. I might be reaching here. I don't think I am, though. There exists evidence of this, one of which being the only way to even unlock achievements is to play the game on Immortal mode, which is an Iron Man version of the game. The tooltip when you hover over Immortal mode reads as follows. Immortal presents the ultimate experience. The difficulty cannot be adjusted. You have only one save slot in an Immortal playthrough. This mode is designed for true immortals. I think that the wording of this tooltip is fairly good evidence of the developer's intentions when making this game. It's to make a player feel like a true immortal, cultivating in a Xianxia. Before you even start playing the game, you're faced with an extensive list of sliders and settings to change and tweak. In Immortal mode, these sliders are locked to what the game considers the most difficult values. This game is similar to Dwarf Fortress or RimWorld if you played those, and these sliders affect those aspects of the game. If you selected Immortal mode, there are still some settings you can adjust, but they are all centered around making the game more difficult. Once you've set the game's difficulty, you can now pick your starting disciples. Picking disciples looks fairly standard at first glance. You have your base stats right here, some cosmetic sliders, some talent points, and some skill levels over here. This is the first place a person unfamiliar with Xianxia or ACS can make decisions that will likely end in a lost playthrough. You will usually have at least one Yao guy in your starting lineup, and it's not uncommon to have all the disciples be Yao guy. Yao guy are animals that awaken to intelligence and are now trying to become humans as well as ascend to heaven. I'll touch on them a little later though. The game doesn't make it clear, but Yao guy are a ticking time bomb if you don't know what you're doing. They usually have above average stats, and the more deadly of a choice they are to pick, the better they seem at first glance. Right here you can see a bear Yao guy with insane stats. But here we see the heavenly tribulation is only a few days away. When the timer runs out, they'll become a demon and try and kill everyone in your sect. So we're not picking any Yao guy, and instead we have 3 humans selected with decent base stats like any RPG. That should be enough, right? Well, as you can guess by me asking, that's wrong. Each one of these humans will have great stats, suck at the main aspect of the game, which is cultivation. You see over here their key sense is low on each one of them. This is the only time you'll ever have to re-roll some of your disciples, so you can save yourself hours by spending the extra time here making ensure that they have solid set of stats and a great key sense. This will allow all three to be good cultivators, which is a rare thing in this world. Even with all of this, there's one final hurdle, and that's the talent points. This isn't as much of a death trap as some of the other choices, but the choices you make here have a huge impact on the early game and can save you hundreds of in-game days if you have some basic knowledge of the game before choosing these, but you won't have that in your first playthrough and potentially not even on your second playthrough. Once you are satisfied with your disciples, you can start the game in earnest. You'll need to make sure that your sect survives while also cultivating strong inner disciples. The game refers to your workers as inner and outer disciples. Outer disciples are the mortals who do the menial labor around your sect. The inner disciples are people who started down the path of cultivation and can no longer do basic work. There are many systems you need to learn while doing this, and this relates back to what I love so much about this game. Even when building bedrooms for your disciples, you have to pay attention to the layout of their bedroom or they could end up dying in their sleep. Xianxia, China, is an unforgiving place, and many disciples will fall along the way. They won't always die because they weren't careful enough. They can easily die because you didn't even know something you did was dangerous, like placing a bedroom door anywhere besides facing south. The game centers around making stronger and stronger inner disciples. I mentioned that the end goal of cultivators in Xianxia was to ascend to heaven. That doesn't really help you much in this game. Ascending in ACS can be done by a relatively weak cultivator pretty early on in a playthrough. The benefits of making one of your cultivators ascend is that they leave their body behind, and it can give you some mediocre benefits. In my opinion, this is one of the aspects that the game is really lacking in. If the main goal of Xianxia is to ascend, then ascending a character should be difficult as well as grant major rewards. There is an explanation in the game for this, but I'll get to that later. Ascending isn't really rewarding, but there is mid-game milestone for each cultivator that I find extremely rewarding, and that's the Golden Core breakthrough. There are three types of classes of cultivator. They are Xiandao, Physical, and Shendao. The main class of the game focuses on Zhendao. Zhendao has 5 stages of cultivation outside of Mortal and Ascended. They are Key Shaping, Core Shaping, Golden Core, Primordial Spirit, and Demigod. Each state is notably stronger than the one before it. While playing through this game, the most exciting event for me was whenever I was preparing a Zhendao cultivator for the Golden Core breakthrough. I mentioned earlier that Key is the essence of all things, and the better compatibility with Key, the more you can do. Well, forming a Golden Core is where you get to put that compatibility to the test to get the strongest cultivator you can. There are 9 tiers of Golden Core. Tier 9 through 7 are a low-grade Golden Core. We're getting even Primordial Spirit stage will be nearly impossible. Tier 6 through 4 are mid-game cores, where ascending will be nearly impossible. And Tier 3 through 1, where reaching ascending is possible but can be very difficult. The first time I got Golden Tier 1, I had such a magnificent feeling. By this point, you'll have a strong understanding of the basics of cultivation, and it will feel earned. But even at this point, you are just starting. Golden Core Tier 1 strength varies more than a Tier 9 does from a Tier 2. I've made a Golden Core Tier 1 that's 4 times stronger than my first Golden Core Tier 1. And if I kept playing, I'm sure I could double or even triple that again. Knowledge and preparation in this game, just like in Xianxia Fables, directly equates to power. So every new system and technique you learn to strengthen your current implementation of systems you've come to understand has an observable effect on your process. And it's crazy that I thought someone with 150k key was so powerful when I have someone with 3 million key now. There's always a strong sense of progression because of this. The other 2 cultivation types, Shendao and Physical, have a completely different kind of cultivation system. Shendao has a divine realm that turns into a little city builder simulation to power their abilities. They also require you to enhance their mental fortitude to handle more residents in their divine realm. The creation of a divine realm is a lot like forming a golden core, because the divine realm can have anywhere from 1 to 48 building slots based on a number of factors that you prepare for. And preparing for it for the first time to get 48 slots is a lot of fun. However, once you have a room set up, you will almost always get your 48 slots, and that excitement for progressing further isn't as exciting as Xiandao cultivators. These can also be more frustrating than either Xiandao or Physical cultivators, because of the mental fortitude levels they need can be extremely hard to ever achieve the highest ranks when you don't start out knowing what you're supposed to be doing, which is exactly what you're going to face the first and possibly even second time you're cultivating one. Physical cultivators take in the essence from their surroundings through breathing and eating food, and use it to remold their body to become stronger. They don't have anything like the golden core, but the more you remold the body, the more you learn how the system works and what essences give what buffs. It can be very rewarding to figure out how to make the best cultivator in this category, and there's a lot of different aspects you can work on. These cultivators are also seen as the easiest to make super powerful early in the game. Both of these cultivation classes are fun, deep, and rewarding in their own right. And if you do it right, an individual cultivator in either one of these classes can outperform a single Xianxia cultivator. However, Xianxia has something that makes them outperform these two in the late game, called foundations, which I'll be covering later. So we have 3 different kinds of cultivators, all trying to become stronger and stronger, but not for ascension, since ascension is pointless. One of the first objectives you'll have for yourself is there are 3 ancient mythical beasts that you can fight once you enter the end of the mid-game. These monsters are actually really cool and give great loot, so it's really rewarding to fight them. Speaking of loot, one thing I haven't talked about is cultivation rooms and feng shui. I'm not going to go into depth about feng shui in this video because it's super complicated and confusing. However, I will tell you that you will need to work on building and improving cultivation rooms. Each Xianxia cultivation law has an element. Laws are kind of like subclasses for cultivators. When you become a cultivator, you choose this law and it sticks with you until you're either reincarnated or you die. So if you have a wood cultivator and you want them to be more powerful, you have to supply them with things like medicine and techniques that can enhance their key resonance. The major thing every cultivator needs is a cultivation room that is filled with items of the element that supports wood, and water is the element that supports wood. Not only do these items have to be the right element, they also have to give off a strong key aura. So a wood cultivator needs a room filled with water affinity items, surrounded by walls made from items with a strong water affinity. It will need floor titled with that water affinity, and most importantly, those items with a strong water affinity need to also give off that strong key aura. There are a number of ways to get these items, but in order to get the best of the best, you need to kill those ancient beasts I was talking about. The Flood Dragon is a presence at the end of the early game when a cavern appears in your base. If you don't suppress it, it will cause a ruckus in your base, destroying walls and making it rain often. If you anger it, the Flood Dragon will come out and wipe your entire sect if you're not prepared. It takes strong cultivators to kill the beast, and there are a lot of different abilities you have to watch out for if you don't want your entire sect disciples dying, or your base turned into a giant puddle. What's more, if you want the key dense items it drops, you need to break its parts, and to get the very best parts, there are special requirements you need to fulfill before you kill him so that you can break off that part as well. Doing this also makes the Flood Dragon even stronger, so getting these items can be very difficult and dangerous. Killing your first ancient beast is when the late game really starts. The reason for this is because your cultivation room starts getting these lower level items replaced with very powerful items, leading to more powerful golden cores, leading you to kill the ancient beasts a lot easier. Once you are strong enough to let one cultivator kill an ancient beast without taking any damage or having any of your disciples die, then it wouldn't matter if all 3 ancient beasts showed up at once. You could kill them all within a couple of minutes. And now you're really ready to start the end game. Remember how at the beginning in the tutorial a group of unknown cultivators attacked your sect? Well, it's time to return the favor. At this point, if you've worked with the story, you might know which sect attacked you. But honestly, it doesn't even matter because you have a bunch of powerful cultivators and there's really nothing to do to keep the board away besides wiping out other sects. There are a couple ways of doing this. You can do this head on like I did. It's inadvisable though because other sects are really strong. The reason why Xianxia and physical cultivators aren't as strong as Xianxia cultivators isn't because a Xianxia can fight a Xianxia head to head. It's because of a battle mechanic called formations. This is when your cultivators group together to make a formation that you created to enhance the cultivator in the center of the formation, called the pillar's strength. Xianxia cultivators, while strong, make terrible pillars, and physical cultivators can't be used in a formation. The NPC sects usually have between 10 and 20 inner disciples, each with 10 million or more ki. When they band together to make a formation, it's super powerful and hard to beat. My biggest complaint about this game is how unintuitive the combat is. There was a point in my first playthrough when I was doing fine and killing everyone who attacked my base, and out of nowhere this group came by that was filled with primordial spirits and wiped my base. I wasn't expecting it all because I really felt like I was keeping up with the flow of the game and had strong characters. It turned out while I had very good characters with very strong key sense, I didn't have characters who were good at battle, so I couldn't fight back until I got them some more battle power. There are other ways to make the sect fight easier besides just powering up your characters or making stronger formations. You can lure out each elder one by one and kill them individually, or there are certain events that can make them attack you in small numbers. Either way, this is in my opinion the end goal of the game. Taking over each sect is very difficult, even for the most powerful and experienced players, and there are awesome rewards for beating each one. You can only do this in the extreme late game as well. Once you defeat a sect, you're able to get the loot of their entire base, which they have some pretty good stuff all over the place in vast quantities. They also give you a tribute of their signature items every year, and you can take the centerpiece of their sect and build it in your own. This also gives you even stronger formation, making fighting other sects easier. With all that said, this has only been a light covering of the gameplay, and I have left out several of the systems that play. I'll mention a few of the others in rapid succession to give you a sense of how much depth this game still has that I haven't covered. There are pets you can find and adopt. You can train these, feed them, and make them stronger and have them do different things around your sect. There are 5 different ones that you can train, and they take a long time to train, maybe 200 plus in-game days. You can force animals to awaken to intelligence to begin their transformation into a Yao guy. And when you're doing that, you can control how powerful they become when they evolve into a Yao guy by making them awaken to the correct intelligence. You have agencies you need to develop and care for. This gives you one of the main forms of currency and is imperative to raising your cultivators. The entire mechanic is a base management game where you need to take care of the populations when events occur. You can send your cultivators to different maps to recruit people, gather resources, or discover secrets in those maps. Your cultivator can go on adventures to get rare resources and participate in special secret events. There's a social minigame where you talk to NPCs to learn about them. Then use what you learn to become friendlier with the other NPCs in order to learn more about the NPCs you've already talked to. Once you know their weaknesses, you can go back and talk to them and further your relationship with the NPCs, becoming great friends. You can plant and raise crops, set up farms of animals, take care of guests that come to your sect. There are merchants, auctions, reputation systems, a good and bad moral choices, and much, much more. Like I said, while this game is confusing, that confusion only comes from how deep and wonderful the game is. Now that I've shown you that there are many systems in the game, I want to talk about the game's story once again. Warning! From this point on, I'll be talking about the true ending of the game, so this is major spoiler warning. Go to the timestamp that's currently on the screen if you don't want any spoilers. I'll give you a second. When you finally reached the end of the story and discovered all the mysteries of the game, you might have a couple of questions. Not about the story, because overall it's pretty pointless, but about the game itself. Why did the developers design Ascension to suck so bad? Why is it so easy to actually ascend? Those of you who know the Xianxia genre know that cultivation is difficult. Those of you who didn't know Xianxia at the start of this game, by the time they reach here will know it much better and may also be curious about this. I said at the beginning that this game's confusing. Once you get a knack for it, it's actually quite easy. With the knowledge I have now, I can start a game and get my first few cultivators to have powerful tier 1s in less than a year. While knowledge is power, it feels a little too powerful. Why? The answer is because the cultivators in your world are scared of demons. In ancient times, they barely defeated demons back in an old war. Once they defeated the demons, they took a small part of their world and sealed it into an alternate dimension. That's where ACS takes place. In doing this, the land where ACS takes place has a weaker creative heaven, making Ascension much easier. The true end is an explanation of what led to this, and puts into perspective why your sect was attacked, and why cultivation is much easier than you would have expected. When you've heard all there is to hear, at the end of the story you're given a choice, whether or not to destroy the seal separating your dimension from the one where the powerful demons rule. If you decide to destroy it, this will cause everyone in your world to lose all of their cultivation experience and have to start from scratch, and it will also merge the 2 dimensions back into one again. If you choose to remain in this world, nothing will change. You'll hold on to all of your cultivation you fought tooth and nail for, but the creative heaven will continue to weaken, and in about 10 to 50,000 years, the seal will break anyways. And honestly, because this game is so hard and because it's so frustrating and confusing, I found this a powerful choice. It's not like in most games where the final decision is to save your entire crew or kill a puppy and let your crew die. Getting to this point is the opposite of easy, but here at the end of the story, there's a godlike character telling you it was easy. He's telling you that all the elders in the world know it's easy and have chosen to stay here anyways. That if you break the seal, you will lose all of your cultivation and have to start from scratch, but in doing so, you will open up an even harder path, where at the end is much greater strength. I felt this choice in my bones. If I'm being honest, I did not want to break the seal. I understood what the elders here thought. This, easy? You're out of your mind. This is one of the most trying experiences I've ever had. Hell no. So I decided to leave. This happened before I took over all the sects, so I still had a lot to do anyway. Why would I bother breaking the seal and ending the story with so much to do? But then it happened. I eventually took over every single sect. And while it was hard, it wasn't impossible. All of the elders who had had thousands of years of experience cultivating were now bending a knee to me. I took over all of it. Here I was standing at the top of the cultivation world after only a few years. Here I was controlling all these old geezers who had been content to live their lives as gods for millennia. If you remember correctly, earlier in the video I said that we were 1 to 11 pointless mortals who had no elders to guide us. As it turns out, if we had elders to guide us, we wouldn't have been able to reach as far as we had. All the elders in the world knew how easy it was to ascend. They knew how easy it was to get power, and they didn't care. All they cared about was keeping on to what little they had. If anything else had happened besides our sect getting destroyed, we may not have come here to begin with, and I did not want to be them. When I came to this realization, I was actually still making my characters stronger. Not for any reason, I just liked making stronger and stronger characters. When I did realize it though, I actually left for the edge of the universe right away. I went up to the man and told him to break the seal. I accepted the challenge. I refused to ascend in such a pointless world. I refused to live as the king of fools. If there are more challenging adventures in front of me, I will face them head on. This moment for me is why I said the game being hard and confusing was so well done. Hundreds of hours in, multiple playthroughs, and I realized I wasn't truly rising to the challenge. After feeling the fear in me and coming to this realization, the resolve I had when I made the choice was just an amazing feeling. I don't know if I'm the only person in the world who felt this, but I'm glad I did, and I look forward to continuing my journey in NCS2 if it's anything like the first one. Overall, it was an amazing experience. I truly loved my time with it, and I could definitely see myself coming back to the game in the future. I learned a lot, and it gave me a new appreciation for Chinese culture. I watched Neja, a good Xianxia animated movie on Netflix. Can't recommend this movie enough. I watched it like 4 to 5 times. I suggest watching it in sub though, instead of English dub, because the English dub leaves out a lot of the key words and phrases. Kind of like Brock from Pokemon calling a rice ball a jelly donut. It also made me eat Chinese more. A huge achievement, I know. I watched some other Chinese films like Kung Fu Panda and Jackie Chan Adventures. Anyway, it's been a blast writing this. This is my first YouTube video like this, and I'd like to do more. I've always wanted to do videos like this, but I've never had the passion to do it. The absolute silence I saw in this game is the first time I've really been kicked in the rear to do it, though. I'm hoping to do more soon, so if you could like, comment, and hit that subscribe button, I would feel a lot more confident when writing the next one. Thank you for watching until the end. Bye.